Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. You know, I say it all the time, but I love meeting like-minded people and connecting with them on a shared mission. It's one of the best feelings in the world, honestly. And one of the things that I did this past year was I went to the CFO Accelerator in Dallas, Texas. And there at the conference, met so many amazing fellow fractional CFOs. And this person in particular stood out to me. I invited him to come on the show because I was so impressed not only with his accomplishments, but also his humility and his background. Because he's not a traditional CPA, he's not a traditionally trained accountant, but he has such a passion for helping people just like you manage their cash flow better and keep what they earn. So I'm really excited to welcome onto the show today, David Richter. He is an active real estate investor who's been essential in closing over 850 deals over the last 10 years. While he's grown and built a real estate business from 5 to over 25 deals a month, he also realized that as much money was coming in, it was all going right out the door. And with the unique opportunity of being in every seat as a real estate investor, he then found a calling in the company's finance seat to help the businesses see where their money really went. He's helped real estate companies completely turn around from going out of business to building cash reserves by using the Profit First cash flow system. He's been featured on Bigger Pockets, Real Estate Disruptors with Steve Trang, and many other podcast shows and stages. To help even more people, he actually wrote Profit First for Real Estate Investing, a derivative of the original Profit First book by Mike Michalowicz, and it's tailored specifically to real estate investors. His goal is to completely transform the real estate investing industry by helping real estate investors make and especially keep more money in their businesses. As the founder and owner of SimpleCFO Solutions, he wants to bring investors true financial clarity and freedom and help every single investor stop living deal to deal. We're going to go into how David got into this profession, his passion for helping real estate investors, and some tangible tips on how you can apply the Profit First methods in your business. Hey, David, welcome to Keep What You Earn.
Thank you for having me, Shannon. I'm excited to be here.
So excited to have you. Could you just introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, I'm David Richter. I own SimpleCFO, a fractional CFO company. I also am the author of Profit First for Real Estate Investing. So I've been in the real estate world for a long time. I have an entrepreneur background. If you see me, I look like the numbers person, but I promise my background's more the entrepreneur side, and I just saw a big need on the financial side. So that's a little bit about who I am and what I own.
What inspired you to get into the Profit First framework? We're going to go into what that is, but how did you connect to it?
Here we go. So since real estate investing is my background, if you've ever heard of the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that's just an entrepreneur book. A lot of people read it. Well, that totally revolutionized my mindset in college. Thankfully, I had a good friend who recommended that book and gave it to me. I read that book and that was it. Game over. I had to get a property. So I got a property, just went through that whole exercise. The first property was actually a home run. I rented it. Then I lived in it with my wife. It was the first house we lived in. Then we lease optioned it. Basically, the person who went in there was renting it until they could actually purchase it. And I helped them get a loan to purchase the property. So that was it was a slam dunk home run. But then I was learning real estate too, because I linked up with a real estate company that was doing about 5 deals a month and wholesale deals. So basically, literally just finding a property that needed a lot of work and then selling it to a flipper that would go in and actually flip it. And then we would just make that little bit of spread, basically a marketing fee. So then from there, we grew that company to about 25 deals a month that we were doing all the things you saw on HGTV, fixing and flipping it or wholesale or renting it out, all the different shows that are on there now. We were doing anything you could think of in the residential space. But once we got to the 25 deals a month, I had a lot of seats in the company. One of the final seats I sat in was the finance seat as kind of the interim CFO, which I don't even have that background, but let's not go into that yet. But it was where I saw and learned how to read the numbers of the business. And even though we were doing 25 deals a month, we were spending 26 worth every single month. So I was like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? No wonder why we feel stressed all the time. It's we're doing all this activity, but not actually getting any of the reward. So that's what even drove me to then keep my ears perked up whenever I was at a mastermind or event, because a lot of other people were like saying, yeah, we're doing a lot of deals or we're making a lot of money, but then at the bar they're crying because they're broke. And I'm like, what the heck? So it's not just me. Like, thank God it's not us. Like, I saw it as an epidemic, honestly. It was like 95% of business owners I would talk to at that point. That's what kind of drove me to this, because then I worked with through a long series of events, won't bore everyone, moved across the country, started working with another investor, and he had the same problem as every other entrepreneur. Books were a mess, had no cash, like it was all in his properties, like just it was all over the place. Helped him clean that up. And he said, like, this has been life changing. Like, just knowing the numbers, knowing what I make, spend, and keep every month, like just simple things. That drove me to start my own company. A good mentor of mine said, you should read Profit First. I read that book in one night, and me as the entrepreneur with the entrepreneur background, it made sense to me. Like, oh my gosh, if I would have had this when we were doing 5 deals before we grew to 25 deals a month, like we would have been keeping a whole lot more of what we made because of the framework of that book and that system. So that's what resonated with me. And that's what took me down the Profit First path, was honestly a lot of bad things, like almost going bankrupt, like with that business.
Right. And like, lesson learned, be careful what books you recommend to David,
Right. Yeah. No
because he's going to
kidding.
go do them
Yes, exactly.
and write them and write their iterations, which is awesome. So could you just kind of, I know you've probably done this before, but in a nutshell, summarize
Yeah.
for our listeners what Profit First is fundamentally, because maybe they
Yes.
haven't read the book.
So a lot of people, when they get into business, think that it's going to be the sunshine, rainbows, or like their ticket to wealth. But a lot of people get stuck in a bad formula that people give them. And it goes much deeper. I'll give the high level though, where it's like from basically birth. It was probably parenting, school. Everyone's taught us not to be the entrepreneur. Then you become an entrepreneur and you think this is going to be great. And then it's the blind leading the blind, where they tell you it's sales minus expenses equals profit. I make a sale, I pay everyone else and their mother, and hopefully at the end of the day or end of the year, or when I sell all of this, the business and everything, I make some money. So we're also always placing profit last in a for-profit business. And it's like, that's the concept of Profit First, to flip that formula on its head and say, no, it's sales minus profit equals expenses, meaning I make a sale, I take my profit first, and then I still have the expenses to grow, but I'm making sure that I'm building margin and space and profitability in the company as I build it, because otherwise you go from 5 deals a month to 25 deals a month and spending 26 worth. And it's like, shoot, I wish I would have had good habits back then. Other thing about Profit First is not just that mindset. Here's what really captivated me about Profit First, because I'd read Rich Dad Poor Dad, which said pay yourself first, which was basically the same message. Or The Richest Man in Babylon, a portion of all I have is mine to keep. Or The 7 Habits by Stephen Covey, like he says in there, place first things first and like prioritize the right things. And it's like all that made sense, and Profit First had that. But what took it a step further is, here's an actual cash management system that reflects all of those sentiments and statements, like the formula that's presented in Profit First, then the pay yourself from Rich Dad Poor Dad. It said, here it is. And honestly, here's the high level overview of the system. It's the envelope system for business. Basically opening up different bank accounts and using those to prioritize your profit, so you don't have this one big black hole account, which everything gets sucked into and sucked right back out. And it's like, where the heck did all of it go? So that's the general concept of Profit First.
Yeah, and that's exactly the mindset that we encourage here too. And we put it into place with, like you said, we're trained not to think this way. We're trained
Right.
to go like, we make, we spend, then we keep. But it's actually flipped on its side in order to actually make sure you're keeping anything. Because
Right.
I know that there's always going to be an excuse to spend more money. There's always going to
Always.
be more overhead we can spend on. There's always,
Yep.
and we think when we're growing our revenue, it's almost like lifestyle creep in our business. We
Yeah.
grow the expenses because we need to fund, the fulfillment of those new sales. And then we just end up in the same place, right?
That is so good. I love how you said it. It's the lifestyle creep in the business. Like, oh, we're making more? That means we can spend more now. Instead of thinking about, okay, what do I really want from this business? Like, you don't want it to become that cash eating monster that like we were doing back then. It was a nightmare, because if you're in constant survival mode, you can't think of the big things. You're operating from fear from every decision. And that's where I love what you said, that lifestyle creep in the business. If you keep doing that, it just constantly is eating at you of like, why am I not making money? Like, what is happening here? And that is literally what I believe Shannon, myself, like a lot of us that as fractional CFOs, we work with people that make money but feel broke. And that is how most people operate their business. It's like, we have to do something different than what you've been doing, or you're going to get the same result.
I love that. You do not need to make money and feel broke. I love that.
Yeah.
And so talk to me a little bit about you kind of discovered this concept, you implemented it, right? But let's talk about the happy ending. Did you end up, changing course in the business? What were some of the results that you realized once you kind of locked this in and started designing around your profit?
So with the guy that I actually, when I moved across the country and worked with that guy, like one of the first things he said was, I have that clarity. But then we started implementing some of the system, the profit first with him, and he started paying himself, and he had never done that before. And it was like, see, this is fun. And then when I started my business, I implemented it from day one when I started the fractional CFO company. So I've always been profitable along the way and have kept that profitability. Even as we've scaled to several seven figures, like I've kept that in place. So that way I could be a good testament to other people. Like, you can do this. I don't care what the business is. Like, if you focus on the profit, that's what's going to expand and grow. So that's where we've grown from just working with a few people to over 100 and I think like 50 clients on a monthly basis we're at now, where we now serve them, but then also teach them what we're living out of actually taking the profit and making sure we have these accounts and making sure that we're prioritizing that. Because if you don't, I wouldn't be able to serve more people. So it's like, I'm a living testament to this. I honestly wish I could have gone back to that first company and helped implement that, but I wasn't the owner. And like, I had come up with a plan even back then. And it was kind of like, no, I just want to go this direction. That was one of the reasons for moving, across the country too. But that's where now just I get to see people's faces light up when it's like, okay, I don't have to live deal to deal anymore, because we work with a lot of real estate investors and business owners that are just living month to month, paycheck to paycheck. They've traded the W-2 paycheck to paycheck for like month to month living on the other side as an entrepreneur. So that's where now, man, I've got stories and stories of people on that side, case studies that we've actually taken people through there. But on my side, like honestly, this morning I worked out before this thing, but like I started working at like 9:30, 9:45, so it's like I get to create also the profit first mentality in my life. Like, I played with my daughter this morning. I took her to school. I got to work out. I get to be on this podcast. Like, it's also not just about the money, but what the money frees you up to be able to do as well too. It's like, this is why. And I honestly started Simple CFO to give more too. And like, we opened a giving account from day one and like have been funding that. And I've been doing the charitable causes, and Operation Underground Railroad has gotten a lot of traction in the media lately because of Sound of Freedom, but like, we've been supporting them for a long time and other things like that as well too. So it's like, that's why I started the business. And that's why now I'm so adamant about, we have to focus on the profitability and we have to have a system that keeps us in line, or otherwise I wouldn't be able to do what we're doing.
Yeah, and this is such an important thing because this is something we go through with every client in onboarding is we really kind of dig into the goal.
Yeah.
And a lot of the
That's
times
awesome.
people will express their goal in the form of a revenue number, right? What's your
Right.
goal? 3 million this year. I always say this, guys, like so those of you who listen to the podcast, you've heard me say this a bajillion times. But it's what's your goal? 3 million in revenue. Why? Well, I
Right.
did 2 million last year, so this feels right, right? And I go, but like, why? What are you going to, what is that going to buy you? Or what is that going to enable you to do? What is that going to do? And you nailed it where it's, will it really give you more freedom? Because if you make another million, does that mean you have to hire 3 more people?
Right.
Right. And then now you have
Exactly.
to onboard these people. And if we go back to your goal, you told me, client, you wanted to be able to pick your daughter up from school every day. Do you really think that making a million more is going to get you closer to that?
Right.
And it's
Exactly.
like, actually, no. And believe it or not, a lot of the times what we end up doing, and this goes back to the profit first mentality of, it's kind of the rocks in the jar, right? In that
Yeah.
metaphor of like the bigger things that matter have to go in first, which is what
Yeah.
you want to take away from your business. You made the business, you didn't create a new job for yourself or a cage for yourself to live in. You want to be able to create the freedom. So the biggest thing is understanding what your goals actually are, but also being able to somehow quantify that for the sake of your business to figure out if you're
Exactly.
on track to reach them, right?
Exactly. That is such a good way of saying it, because it's not all about the money at the end. The money is the means to the end. It's like, we have to get the money and be profitable so we can actually think about the things we want to do. And a lot of people sadly never get there. They never get to that point because they're always living in that survival mode. Like we said, like I said at the beginning, like, they make money but feel broke. And when you're there, it's a vicious cycle of just living. Okay, are we going to have enough money this week to pay payroll? Enough money next week for the next marketing campaign that's going out. And it's like, just constantly never thinking about the big picture and how everything on the day to day is fitting into that overall picture. But I love what fractional CFOs get to do. Like, we get to talk about
I
this
know.
stuff when no one has ever talked about it before with people. Like, this is something, okay, here we go. Here's my soapbox. Like, you go to an event, right? What are the sexy
Hmm.
topics? Marketing, sales, maybe even operations. Like, I feel like that's becoming a little bit more popular, but it's like all that's out there. How do I get the next deal? How do I make sure that I'm making enough sales? And that is very, very important. I am not stressing that it's not important. But then what is everyone secretly feeling in the room? Because you can do more sales. Let's say you go from 2 million to 3 million in a year, but you still are in the same spot. You know why? Because the root problem was you thought income was going to solve all the problems. And that's the root cause. It's like, it's not going to solve the problems, because if you're stuck in the same place and you keep growing, your problems get bigger. I love what Keith Cunningham says in his books, like The Road Less Stupid. If you grow cancer, the tumor grows. Like, that's where it's like, if you keep pouring into it, it's just going to get bigger and bigger. And it's like, who cares if you're bigger? Just like we got bigger, but we got worse because we had bad money habits along the way. So there you go. There's
Right.
my soapbox on that.
You can't out exercise a bad diet, people.
Yeah, exactly. There you
You
go.
can't out exercise a bad diet. I always say, I always liken the business to a body. And I say, if you're consuming too much, you can't burn it off. You can't generate enough energy to support what you're consuming.
Yeah.
And then what ends up happening? Your pants don't fit. And then you're
Yes.
like, oh no, what I feel, I feel whatever it is. I feel fat. I feel bloated. I feel whatever. Right. But like, and then the other thing I always notice too with business owners is not until the pants don't fit do they realize there's a
Right.
problem.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's what we do as fractional CFOs is we try to make you aware of the data and what direction it's heading in before you get to the point where you're shimmying into your skinny jeans on the bed, hopping up and down. That is the point, right?
Agree.
Is we want to get to the point where, hey, this is what direction you're moving in. I think we need to take a turn over here and instill a few better habits. But I want to know, David, there's no question that you are passionate about this topic.
Yeah.
But what drove your passion from, because you just said you have no CFO background. Maybe you're not like classically trained, if you will, or technically trained in your education. Talk to us about your background and
Yeah.
how you discovered a passion for your CFO practice.
So I've always liked the financial side of life. Like, once I started reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, it led me down the Dave Ramsey path and like personal finance. And like, okay, I got to get my life together. I'm getting married, like all this stuff, nothing that I've been taught in school up to this point. Like, I started down that road. So I did like that side, but I also liked sales, and I liked getting houses, and I like having rentals, and I liked having passive income. So I liked all of that. But then that's where, when I would go to those events, that's what really perked my ears up the first time, that it wasn't us just doing the 25 deals a month, spending 26 worth. It was other people too, at high levels, like at millions of dollars a year. Then you go to a meetup like that's in your town, and it's the same thing with people making a couple 100,000. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like, this is not just at people at certain levels and, soon they outgrow the profit. Like, no, some people just have the bad habits from the beginning. That's what really perked it up to like, you know what? And I forgot if we said this even before the air, we aired this or we started the recording, but Sesame Street, like with the Sesame Street of finance, it's like, I don't feel like there's a bunch of books and gurus in the personal finance space to get your, like, the baby steps like that Dave Ramsey has, or like all the different things that people have out there, right? But it's like, no one has that for business. Like, there's no one out there just saying, here's the couple, like the financial foundation that everyone should have in their business to make sure that you at least give yourself a fighting chance to have good habits. That's what drove me to it, because when I first started it, it's embarrassingly bad. Like, I went to school for teaching at a private Christian college that was like a worthless diploma, honestly. Like, if anything, it just gave me a good foundation for who I am and for like meeting my wife and that type of thing. But nothing for what I'm doing now except for teaching. I actually do get to teach. This is what I get to teach now. But that's where I saw that there's a huge need. There was a huge need of people making money and feeling broke, and no one just giving them simple clarity. Like, here's the decisions you can make because here's what the numbers are telling you. That's what drove me to start the business at the beginning. Then once I read Profit First, I'm like, ooh, this is a good system, because everyone, no matter what, even if they hand their receipts in to their CPA at the end of the year, they manage cash on a daily basis. Like, cash runs through their account. So that's what drove me to Profit First and really appealed to me, was like, okay, we can keep more with a simple system for the bank and for the cash and that type of thing. So that's what got me down that road. And then from there, honestly, it just took off. it was like, then I started talking about it. I started going to different events. Then I wrote the book, and it just kind of snowballed into this giant thing where I'm like, oh my gosh, it just keeps growing and growing because, as Shannon, as you know, so many people are hurting. They're hurting. Like you said, they come to us when the pants don't fit. What a great analogy. So many people come there, and it's like, I want to go out there and try to pre-game them. Like, no, let's have, while your pants still fit, let's make sure you're building room and looking buff in the mirror or looking sexy or whatever you want from your image, like whatever that means to you, or what, that's what I want for you now. So that way you don't come to me or come to Shannon 12 months from now, 6 months from now, and the pants don't fit and your business is on fire. And you're like, oh my gosh, what do? I don't have cash. Then you don't even have cash to start working with a fractional CFO. Like, you're at that point and you're like, oh my God, what do I do? It's like, I wish I could help you, but like, we've got to be able to also economically make this happen too. So that's where it's like, I want to get this message out there. That's what really drove me, because I felt like there was so much financial foundation on the personal finance side, but not on the business side.
And this is why we connected too, because I don't even know if I told you this story, but I told this to our listeners, so you guys know this story, that I wanted to be a language teacher. I wanted to be a Spanish teacher.
Oh, wow.
I actually went to high school. I wanted to major in Spanish because it was my favorite subject, because that's all you have to work off of for data when you're 17. You're like, this is my favorite. I don't know what a job would look like, but I like this and let's do it. And my dad, who was a CPA, pulled me aside and he dared me to take this accounting class in high school that was offered. And he was like, if you hate it, I'll never bug you, but you got to just try it. I tried it. I aced it. They put me in honors accounting with the seniors when I was a junior. So I was the only one there in like June when they all graduated. I was like the one left in the accounting class. And my dad pulled me aside and he said, this is the language you are meant to teach. He sat me down and said, this is the language you are meant to teach because no one understands it.
Yeah.
And he said, not only that, like, he did plug in, you're going to make a lot of money someday, Shan, if you speak this language.
Yeah.
And
that helps.
and he's like, if you actually like this is what you should be doing. He's like, and you can use Spanish. Spanish will come in handy. Do not stop that. But as far as a career goes, if you want to teach something, this is what you should teach. And that's how he got me.
Yeah.
And that's actually why. And then here we are. This is what Keep What You Earn is all about. Same thing. I'm here to teach. I'm here to empower. Like you said, the financial foundations. That's why we have our quick starter course. That's why we have, all of the resources available. That's why everything I do here 5 days a week is free. Because I'm like, I just want to make better business owners out there who can understand this stuff sooner and be able to be successful.
Exactly.
All I care, like, pay me back in going and doing this stuff, guys.
Right?
Just pay me back in action.
Like, for the love of God, like, go out there and stop feeling broke. Like, just take some simple actions that you're hearing from this podcast, because you're going to get those practical steps.
Yeah. And speaking of the practical steps, let's talk about how behind Profit First, because you mentioned that Mike Michalowicz walked through a wonderful formula, a wonderful cash management system.
Yeah.
But I know it really starts with some core fundamental concepts and some core numbers. So can you talk about how you implement it with your clients and what you can share with our listeners on how they can do that?
So there's two big things that I'll cover. And I like to frame this as a game, because like, game is something that we all resonate with. Just think of like a game that you play, board game or something, that when you're out there, you think you're playing whatever game your business is. Well, I don't care if it's a restaurant, a brick and mortar business, an online service, it's a real estate, whatever it is. We think we're playing that game because we're good at it. You could go out there, you can make the sales, you bring people in, you have customers. Like, even if you have a dip, you know where to go to find the answer, that type of thing. You're good at playing that game. But when the rubber meets the road, the real game we're all playing is the money game. Like, that is the game that we play, because at the end of the day, it's the money that transforms into the freedom that we want, whatever that means to us. And that's where, when we work with people, the first thing we do is we've helped them find their keep number, because I want to teach you how to win the money game. But winning looks different for everyone, because it's not about what you said, the $3 million that I want to do this year because I pulled that number out of my butt. It's more like, no, what does 3 million mean to you? Does that mean more time with family, or no, this is a specific goal? Like, we have a goal this year for a specific amount of revenue, but that's tied to my giving goal. Like, if I make this much, I know that this percentage can come off to be able to put in the giving account to give. So it's like, do you have the keep number? Because I want you, and what is a keep number? The keep number is how much do you want to take home on a monthly basis for you, for your family, and for the things that you want to do. First, if you're not out of your rat race, like if you're not paying yourself first right now from your business, this is basically like the survival number. Like if your business could just provide this, you could breathe a little bit easier. Then you can graduate to what do I really want from the business? And then the keep number becomes more of a want than a need number. At the first, it might be, I just need this to get out of this headspace. Then it's like, what do I really want? Because if I can do this and get to my need number, like, ooh, I might want to go for what I want. And that becomes my new keep number. But that defines winning for you because then it's tied to a why. Why do I want this number? What are those things? Because if at first you just go through with, let's just say you're married, you have a spouse, you sit down with them and you talk about the numbers of what do we really need to bring in right now to make sure we don't feel like this. So you can stop asking me if we can get groceries or not or go out to dinner. Like silencing those types of things because you're just like, here, I'm going to bring in at least this much and this is what we can put towards those things that we want to do together. Then from there, it's more like, hey, a better conversation once you hit that number of what do we want to get to? If we're at $10,000 a month now, what would $20,000 do? And why would we even want to get there? And is it worth investing in the business for me to be able to bring home more? So that would be the first thing, is finding that keep number. I do have a form that I'll make sure that you have at the end here where it's a simple one-page thing of how much is the business bringing in now versus what I'm actually making and what do I need to keep. I honestly would sit down with your spouse, if you have one, or a business partner or a mentor and go through this together to be like, okay, if you have a fractional CFO, like if you're using Shannon right now, like sit down with her and say, okay, help me fill this in, that type of thing. So that way you could go through that because that's the first part that we teach people. Then the crux of Profit First is how to play the money game. First, we define the winning the money game. What does that look like? But then we have to implement the how, like, okay, how do I actually get to that keep number on a regular basis? And that's where Profit First, that framework comes into play because I told you it's like the envelope system. So it's literally setting up physical bank accounts, checking accounts that you can see like profit, owner's comp, and owner's tax. Like I'm not going to go down the road of like all the different accounts you can open. Let's just say those are the first three. I call them the golden trio. That would be, it's the golden trio because I'm a big Harry Potter, Star Wars fan. I mean, look at me. I get it. It's like they always have the three main heroes, right? Luke, Han, Leia, Harry, Ron, Hermione, the golden trio making sure you win in the end. Well, we just defined what your win was. And also your business is your epic saga like Star Wars. I mean, this is the thing that consumes you. It is your baby. So it's like we need to make sure there's three accounts there that make sure that you win and that helps you focus on profitability. So profit, owner's comp is that keep account. I'll explain the difference between the three in a second here. And then there's owner's tax. So profit is like the icing on the cake. Why did you start the business? This turbocharges that why. So if you want to give, you want to go on vacations, you want to buy a car, you want to do the things, whatever it is, profit is taken out quarterly for the fun stuff that you want to do. And it's up to 50% because we don't want to drain the full profit account every single time. Then you've got the owner's comp, which is the keep. That's the keep bucket. What do I want to keep on a monthly basis that actually pays me for working in the business? That's the account that puts teeth to your winning number. Like, okay, what does winning look like on a monthly basis and what I need to be paid? Boom, that's the owner's comp account and what I need to be paid. First, maybe it's the need. What do I need to not be in survival mode? And then you can upgrade to want. What do I really want from the business and can it support it? Then the owner's tax, like you're going to pay taxes, okay? Unless you have a huge real estate portfolio or a syndication and you've got lots of write-offs and depreciation, then you're probably going to be paying taxes on whatever you're doing. So that tax account is like just a little bit of percent from everything that you sell goes into that bucket, the owner's tax. So at tax time, you're not sweating and saying, oh my gosh, I need to do a lot of sales right now just to be able to cover this tax bill, or I need to do an extension, or I need to file, a payment plan with the IRS. It's like, let's take that burden off your plate. So there's the teeth behind Profit First. So then you can make profit a habit in your business. You can make that keep number a reality. This is where all those books you've probably read in the past or what Shannon's talked about, it's like, this is where now you can actually put teeth behind it to say from every deal that closes, I first transfer a little bit of money into the golden trio. And if you're not profitable, this is the question I get the most. You say, well, I'm not profitable right now. That's why you need a system like this. If you are draining your accounts all the time, this just helps you focus on the right things. You're like, I don't even have 5% to put into that or the, like what it says in the book or whatever. Start where you can. Can you do 1% to those accounts? Can you, if you're at right now at like 100% OPEX to what you're actually making or even above 100%, like if you're spending more than you make, can you cut it enough to get it down to 97% and you 1% into those other accounts? Like just start where you can So that way you can start getting in the habit, because honestly, the habit is the end goal. So that's what I want for you. So if you had some action steps, I'll give you that keep form so you can have that. And then from there, open up a bank account. Go to relayfi.com. Like, they've actually partnered with Profit First. Like, go there and you can actually open up bank accounts like for free, up to 20 of them. And they've got a great interface for the Profit First system. They've literally had the Profit First certification. They've went through that whole thing as a bank, which was nuts. So that's like,
Yeah.
here's some action steps that you can take from here to actually be more profitable from your next sale this week, next week, or whenever you listen to this.
Yeah, and RelayFi, they're actually a partner of ours. I recommend them all the time.
Awesome.
And they are our preferred bank account for all our CFO clients.
Good.
Not to mention, it's easy for us to manage through Relay, but also it's so easy to create these different buckets of accounts without creating a massive headache of opening and closing different accounts with the bank.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And you can set certain access. You can transfer between with ease. It's wonderful. So
That's awesome.
I highly recommend Relay.
Good stuff. Love
Yeah.
it.
And I love that. So you just mentioned, here's one thing that might come up for people.
Yeah.
So I have this like huge profit account and an owner's comp account. Wait a minute. I thought I was paying myself out of profit, right?
Yeah.
Shouldn't I be paying myself out of the profit? Let's just talk about that mentality for a second. Like, those are separate things. Let's talk about the difference between those two accounts and what goes in them.
So profit, like I like to say, is the icing on the cake. It's something that you reward yourself for actually having a profitable business. And it's not some fictitious number that your CPA says, like, here's what you made on your bottom line profit on your P&L. It's actual physical cash in a bank account that you take out quarterly. That's the difference. It's more like a bonus. It's more like you giving yourself a bonus and saying, hey, here's a shot in the arm for like, good job. You actually were profitable and had money there that you didn't have to use, for the business to grow. It was more like this was the profit that we protected. That's that account. It's more the why. I like to call that account more of like, why did I start it? This just turbocharges whatever I wanted to do with that money. Then the owner's comp is more I pay myself regularly, weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, however you would take a salary from your business. Like, that's the owner's comp account. And that's based around that keep number. So it's like, I need to pay myself for what I do for the work that's in the business. So this is the account that's more on the bread and butter, like helping me live my life and pay for the groceries and the food and the everything that I bring home. So that's the big difference between the two. Profit's more that icing on the cake. If you have bad debt, it's also a great place to start paying down bad debt too. Like, if you've got credit card debt or something, you can start using that profit account to just absolutely wipe it out and just give yourself more peace of mind there too. Then once that's all cleared up, then you use it for whatever you want. But it's just that type of account that's more of that, like, I take it out quarterly. It's more of a bonus for actually having a profitable business.
Totally agree. And going back to that sort of analogy of, well, I'm not profitable yet. How can I implement this, right? It's the same mentality of, I'm not fit enough yet for a trainer. Right? I'm not fit enough yet to go into the gym. Well, there are machines. There are online things. There are YouTube videos. Like, literally, there are so many resources available to you in your business to get your business more financially fit. You don't necessarily have to hire a full-time CFO or even a fractional CFO from day one. There are tons of resources you can use. The most important thing, I think, though, let's just go into this for a second, because I know you're going to echo me. You can't do any of this without good bookkeeping.
Oh, right. Like, there's 101, if there's anything. Like, those are the necessaries of the financial clarity in your business. Like, you need to make sure you have good numbers, or otherwise it's the blind leading the blind again. Like, if you don't have the numbers, you don't have the clarity, you don't know where you're going. It's like a storybook. Like, most people have a blank one. Like, a lot of people just don't write their story at all. Like, they don't have a bookkeeper that's the receipts or whatever when they first start out. But a lot of people's stories are a mess, or they read like War and Peace. They're really complicated and like, what the heck is happening? It needs to be simple, clear, and you get what you actually want from them.
Exactly. So let's talk about, so we have the keep number, right? How do you help people arrive at the keep number? So what are some tips you have for folks who are like, I don't even know how much that is. I have no idea how to figure this out. Can we simplify that for people who may feel intimidated or overwhelmed right now at figuring out what that keep number might be?
Yeah, for sure. So here you go. I'm going to give you the long way and the short way. Let's give you the long way first. You print out your last 3 months of your bank statement and just see how much did you spend and how much did you actually put into your personal accounts. Like, this is to you. Like, how much did you need to live? And if that takes you too long, you could still download them. You can cross out all the account numbers, go to Fiverr or something, and have someone build you a spreadsheet. Like, you can literally hire like a freelancer, Like especially if you're in the business world, you're probably looking for the cheapest options all the time. And like Fiverr is a good place to go, or a virtual assistant company, and like just hire someone on a project basis to literally just take those statements and put them into a nice little spreadsheet with a nice little pie chart or something to see here's where all the money's been spent and like, well, how much has come in, to give yourself at least a round number of what's actually happened. Then you take it, then you do what Shannon was telling that one client. Why do you want 3 million? Or like, okay, you are spending this much. Is that really what you want to be spending? Do you need actually more than this? Do you need less than this? Like, is this just because you had scope creep and, or lifestyle creep in your personal finances as well too? It's like, then you're asking yourself the deeper questions. Why? Why do I want this? What do I really want from the business? What do I really want over the next year? And like, think of it in shorter terms too. Like, okay, what do I want this next year? And what do I want my life to look like? Yes, 10, 20 years, it's great to have a big, audacious goal like that you're working towards. But then also, like, if you have young kids at home, like, I would very much encourage you to spend as much time with them as possible. I love that. I saw that video, that reel that goes around of like the first 10 years, you as a parent, you're their favorite person. Like, and then past 10 years old, like, you never are their favorite person again, usually. Like, they've got their friends, they've got a boyfriend, girlfriend, eventually, husband, wife, whatever, down the road, other friends that they make other places. But it's like, if you're young, that's a consideration. But if you don't have kids, then that's a different consideration. Like, do you want to just make as much money? If you're single, okay, do you have a boyfriend, girlfriend? Is there time in there for them? It's like the things that matter to you. That's why winning the money game is not, I can't give you the clear cut. This is how you win it. If you make $1 million a year and you have this much in your bank account, you're a winner. No, you're a winner in my book if you sat down with the significant people in your life and you have a healthy relationship with what the things are going on in your life and a healthy relationship with money. So like, there's a practical way that you can get the numbers that you're actually doing, but then asking yourself those why questions and your specific scenarios in life of, what do I really want from life right now in the stage of life that I'm in?
Exactly. And we are more than happy as fractional CFOs to help you grow and scale your business,
Exactly.
but also make you aware if that's actually what you want. Because a lot of times people want to, it's the sexy thing, right, David? Like scale my business. And I'm like, do you really want to though? Like,
right.
Do you really want that? Do you know what scaling comes with? Do you know what growing comes with? And I know you're experienced in that too. Can we just go, before we wrap this up, I want you to share a little bit of your story of your firm and its growth, because I think it's pretty impactful.
So I started out with maybe a handful of clients, 4 or 5 that I was working with myself when I first started, because I had a good network. I was in the real estate world. People needed this. I got recommended to a few people from my first clients, that just automatically did. Then I started going out and just talking more. I was on podcasts like this, or I would go to different events and just say, here's what I'm doing. That would attract people. Then about 8 months into it and helping, more than a dozen people with the Profit First, that's when I went to Mike and said, I've got a big Mike Michalowicz. I have a big real estate background and I've been implementing Profit First. Could I write the Profit First for Real Estate Investing book? Because I believe this message needs to get out there for the people that have helped me and, the people that we've helped through here and to tell their story. So that's what launched it even more, because once the book came out, I got a lot more speaking engagements, a lot more podcast slots, a lot of webinar opportunities. I had the CEO of Homevestors, which is a big flipping franchise, the We Buy Ugly Houses with a Little Caveman, like reach out and be like, hey, I want to get this inside of here because I want them to know more. So it was like several key things that happened along the way and big relationships from doing that type of thing as well, too, of going out there and saying, okay, how can I serve the marketplace in a bigger way? Because I couldn't, even with the way that we were growing, I couldn't serve everyone. But I'm like, this concept is too important to just be for the people that we work with even. So that's why I wanted to get the book out there. And so that book just catapulted in a bunch of different things. Then honestly, too, I've just found great CFOs along the way from the different relationships that I've had, and the different places. We've gotten some from LinkedIn and things like that. But a lot of them have been like, okay, I go to a good event or something. And there's people in the crowd there that resonate with that and want to help people. And then from there, it's just been different opportunities like that as well, too. But it's just been a crazy journey, because then it was all about, too, I had to think, did I want to go to that next level? Did I want to invest in more marketing? Did I want to do those things? Did I want to become a 7-figure business owner? Because the mindset is different than a 6-figure business owner. Yeah, I am now more a leader than a manager. I cannot be managing the day-to-day anymore if I want to be where I am and continue to grow. And then the next step is I have to make leaders out of the managers. So I have like a 6-person leadership team. If I want to go to the next level, I have to elevate them to where I've been for the past year, in the past year and a half. Like they have to become leaders of their departments, and I have to create strong leaders. And that's the thing that people don't realize. You go through these cycles in business, and then eventually it could be like, hey, am I capped here? Do I want to invest in my growth? Do I want to do this? Will I have to trade anything for this? Will I have to trade time with my spouse or or like with my son or daughter or like with the people in my life and my friends? So that's been a big thing along the way too, that I've aggressively attacked. Like these are non-negotiables. Like I am not going to be away from my daughter a long time. I am going to carve out time for my wife. We are going to do these things. Even if I travel, like I come back, we have a full day where I'm just like, let's go to Disney or something, because I live in the Orlando area. So it's like, this is the types of things that I've built in and have been very aggressive of like, I'm very much, I don't care if I grow and scale, and I don't want to grow and scale if that means I have to give up the things that really matter to me in my life right now. And then I also know too, I'm young. So it's like I'm young enough to where I can invest the time, or I can stay up. Like when I wrote the book, I was up an hour earlier and an hour later than my wife and daughter every morning for like 3 months, getting at least 1,000 words in that session. And that's where it got 75,000 words, like just on a page, but like not giving up the time with them too. So it was like just putting things like that in my life where I had a big enough mission and a big enough goal and a big enough message that drove me to do those things too. So it's been a very unique journey, but it's a lot of things along the way that have kept pushing me. I also have a religious background as well too. I'm a Christian, so I very much have told God like, hey, if you don't want me to be the leader anymore, just tell me. Like if I'm supposed to step away and you want someone else to take it, I feel like the message is too important though for me just to walk away at this point or like to give it up. So just a lot of things that have gone along the way that have got me from where I was to just it's almost August. It'll be 4 years almost. So it's 4
Wow.
years almost. It'll be August 19 is 4 years that Simple CFO has been open.
That's amazing. And I want you guys to hear what David just laid out, right? Because it was getting really specific, serving a particular problem, right? And being willing to turn into the leader and not the manager. Because I think people keep themselves stuck in that role as a business owner that they have to manage everything.
To
And that is what will
micromanage.
burn you out faster than anything if you think you can sustain that.
Yeah.
And you need the help, you need the team. But also, if you know, and there's nothing wrong with this, there is no right or wrong in business in the decisions you make. There's just what's right for you. And the key thing here is that David was willing to step into that role of the leader that builds other leaders, right? That may not be for everyone. And that's okay. That
Right?
is
It is.
okay. Like my vision for Financial is a smaller group of under 10 people. I do not want more than that because I don't want to be a leader of people. I want to work with clients. I still want to be in a little bit in the details. I have a passion for directly teaching a lot
Yeah.
and actually being involved in my clients. And that's okay. I know that's not scalable because I'm not trying to make it scalable. I'm trying to make it something I truly enjoy doing and can actually empower other people on my team to do more with it. But I love having 12 clients and knowing that I'm only going to get so many emails a day and I'm only
Right.
going to have so many problems that come up because then that allows me the mental capacity and freedom to expand, to get creative, to come up with new ideas, to do this, to teach, because that's what I really want to do. And I mean, you guys know I live in Costa Rica. This enables me to go to the pool whenever I want to
Right.
and go, I'm just going to
Good
take a
stuff.
break and go lay out. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that may not be your vision. Like you listening, that may not be David's vision. But the cool thing is when you can actually get clear on what your vision is, you can then tie that back to a number and figure out, now I have a target. Now I have some type of direction I'm moving toward. I have a North Star. And then you can use people like us to help get you there. David, do you have any sort of parting advice or information for our listeners on how they can learn more from you?
If you're making money and feeling broke, you do not have to live there. You do not deserve to live there. I don't care the garbage that has been fed to you. If you started your business, you had enough self-worth at one point to start the business. So have enough self-worth to pick yourself up and say, I deserve to be profitable as well too from this business. There's nothing wrong with making the money and then keeping it as well too and making sure you are making a difference. I don't care if that's in your life or your family's life or the clients that you serve, like you're making a difference by actually keeping the money that you're making. So do that. And then if you want to get in touch, I want to be able to give away the full book, like Profit First for Real Estate Investing. because even if you're not in the real estate investing world, I give the core concept of profit first, or if you want to pick up the original profit first after you get that. But that's where I want to give that away as well as the keep number form. So if you go to simplecfo.com/gift, that's where you can get that, and then you can download it. And honestly, I just want you to not have to feel like that, and then have more of the practical things. Like, I can't teach the whole book on here. There's a lot more practical steps. It is not a fluff piece. This is not a big business card. This is like step 1, step 2, step 3. Like, here's some of the things you can do right away. So there's what I want to leave people with.
I love it. Thank you so much, David, for sharing that with everyone. And guys, that'll be in the show notes right in the links. So make sure you grab a copy of the book. That was so generous of David to share with us. And if you took away anything from today's episode, and I know you did, don't lie to me, you took something away from today's episode, you learned something new, or got a really good takeaway, a nice quote, because David's full of them, I want you to grab it, share it on Instagram, tag me at Shannon K. Weinstein or at Keep What You Earn. David, do you have Instagram or any place people can tag you or find you on socials?
Yes, I am on Instagram. It's Richter Scale 91.
Love it. So tag us, let us know that you're listening. And who knows, maybe I'll send you a copy of the book as well to make sure you get more profit first in your life. David, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Shannon. It was an honor.
Sometimes don't you wish you could just Google or ask ChatGPT what is deductible for your taxes? I wish it were that easy, but the truth is that deducting something can really vary, and it's really hard to get a straight answer for your business in particular, but I made something to help. My free tax deduction guide walks you through hundreds of example tax deductions that can apply to your business, along with a mini training on what actually makes something deductible so you can add more to your list and cater it to your specific industry or type of business. This is all for free, and it's at the link in the show notes. Go check it out. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.